morning, everybody. Indeed it is. We have a beautiful fall morning, and we are blessed today to have with us Timothy Botts, as you have received in announcements and e-blasts and chimes and pulpit stuff and just everything else. Tim is an internationally regarded artist and master calligrapher. Tim currently lives in Chicagoland. He got his fine arts degree from Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, where he studied calligraphy with Arnold Bank. Tim and his wife then went to Japan, where they taught, and Tim learned some of the artistic imagination and creativity of calligraphy and artistry in Japan. He has spent his vocational career with Tyndall Publishers, where he was the graphic designer and artistic director for some 500 to 600 books. And he has also, of course, produced his own artwork, some of which we have had on display throughout October and will be on display in our gathering area in the back of Fellowship Hall through the end of this month. When Jenny and I moved here 5 years ago, one of the first things we received early on was a gift from the choir. This book right here, the Book of Psalms, and it's signed inside on several pages from all the members of the choir. And I just took one look at the cover of this and I said, that's a Tim Botts book. Because Jenny and I already had, from a long time ago, Wind Songs, which is Tim's book of hymns and spiritual songs, and Messiah, from Handel's Messiah. We had had that one for quite some time. In fact, Tim, I think that Tim's Hallelujah from Handel's Messiah has become almost iconic. I have seen this in so many places, unattributed, I must say. And I said, that's Tim Botts. That's Tim. And so Jenny and I feel like we've had a connection with Tim and his artistry. My gosh, I think Wind Songs came out in the 80s or something, way back when, okay? You're not that old, Tim. You're not that old. Tim and his wife have, I wrote this down here, 3 children, 12 grandchildren?
Well, we're up to 14.
14 grandchildren, all right. And here's one of the lines that I loved from Tim. As a visual artist, I'm particularly aware that what we take in through our eyes has the power to affect our whole being. I believe the language of visual art can sometimes communicate to deaf ears. Ooh, you can't get in through the ear. Go through the eye. I know Kate has been in correspondence with Tim as we prepared for this whole year of the Psalms. Once we determined what our theme was, and we remembered Tim's book, we said, we got to get Tim down here. He'll be presenting this morning, as you can see. He's got his toys over there, so he's going to do some work for us. He'll be back at 4 o'clock this afternoon to do another piece. I strongly encourage you to come back. Tim will be at this table where he has calendars. He has whatever's left of his Psalms book. And also, his prints in the back are for sale, but you can't take them home with you. You can only take them at the end of November. Don't ruin our exhibit. Would you please join me in welcoming Timothy Botts?
Thank you for the great introduction. So, this is in a large sense what I do in my sketchbook on a small scale. When I study a particular scripture, I work in my little sketchbook, and I make sketches, oftentimes with markers and colored pencils first, and then I use paint and brushes and pens for final pieces. Here today, I'm using these large markers because they enable me to work much faster than if I were to work with my studio. The downside is that I can't really blend the colors. So sometimes I try to give the effect of blending, but it's not quite the same as the fine tools that I'm using. This is also not archival, but it's very smooth paper. And so what's nice about that is you'll see me gliding across the paper. So sometimes calligraphy is called the dance of the pen. These are some selected verses from Psalm 103, which deals with the theme of steadfast, which I understand is a focus that you have been having on your study of Psalms. The Lord is compassionate and merciful, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love, as great as the height of the heavens. The steadfast love of the Lord remains forever with those who fear him. His salvation extends to all generations who obey his commands. So now I need to be finished by 10:30. Is that right? Okay. All right. One of the things that the artists do is we try to decide what is the most important part of a piece of artwork, and then we make it big. It's a really easy concept, but it is important, and so I'm going to write the Lord's name the largest appropriately, because this is all about him. I might also mention that I'm writing his name in Roman letters. I think one of the most amazing things about our alphabet, which we call the Latin alphabet, is that the earliest forms of it are called Roman letters because they come from the time of the Roman Empire. So at the same time that Jesus lived on earth, the Romans were carving these letters, these remarkable letters, in stone. And of course, if you carve something in stone, it has a way of lasting. And so you can actually go to the Colosseum. Outside the Colosseum, you can see a very famous inscription carved in these same letters that you read every day. And most often they are transparent to us because they become so legible to us. And my marker's already reminding me that art is messy. Sometimes these paint markers ooze. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with change in cabin pressure in the airplane. And I checked them all this morning. Yes.
My name is Mrs. Sutherland. I got a nice gift for you.
For me?
Yes, for you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The earth is the Lord's. That's wonderful. So this is in pictures what I tried to do in calligraphy.
I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So the tool of carving in stone, which is a chisel, you can see the effect of that on the shapes of the letters. Yes?
She asked if there's some lines up there that he swallowed.
Well, the lines are in my mind, and I often tell people part of that, half of that is that God gave me the gift, and the other half of it is 50 years of practice. The Lord is passionate and merciful. So that seemed to be a green word to me, green phrase. And I'm using italic, which also is a gift of the Italians. During the Renaissance, italic developed. Did you ever think about that? The word italic has the word Italy in it. It's where the letters came from. So what I'm going to write now is the way Michelangelo wrote. Another characteristic of the Lord is that he is slow to get angry. It's an interesting phrase because it does tell us that God, part of God's makeup is anger, righteous anger, because he is holy, but slow to get angry. And so I want to illustrate that combined concept by using a severe style. It's so fascinating to me in Europe, where our alphabet developed over time, that the Germans had their own style, which we sometimes call Gothic. So this style I'm going to write now is the style that Gutenberg's Bible was done in. Actually, it was done in type at that point, but it was mimicking the calligraphic forms prior to that invention of the printing press. So it seems the German style is so opposite the Italian style. Both of them, though, how interesting, are different kinds of expressions that express different parts of the human condition. Slow to get angry. And filled with unfailing love. Even though I do tend to use a lot of different styles, I do also, well, there are a limited number of styles, but also when I find that one phrase has a similar meaning to another, then I return to that style. And so it seemed appropriate to go back to the italic for the phrase, filled with unfailing love. So here I will start getting more energetic with the flourishes, because after all, his love is filled, and filled with unfailing love. But there are certain words in our language which are important, but they don't have particular meaning, or not meaning, they don't have particular feeling. A word like and. And so, I often think of them as bridge words. Words like conjunctions or prepositions. Yes, I was one of those geeks in fourth grade who loved diagramming sentences. You know, I look back on that with amazement to realize that God had put that in my heart at such a young age, and that it contributed to who I am, along with also studying Latin in high school. I really didn't know why at the time, but it sure has helped me with spelling. Filled with unfailing love. Next is the phrase, as great as the height of the heavens. So this next style is called uncial. It's really significant because the earliest surviving New Testament documents are in this style called uncial. So it goes back to 3rd century, and there is a very famous document in the British Museum that illustrates, it's actually the New Testament written in this style, uncial. So whenever I write uncial, I'm thinking about those scribes who faithfully copied it time after time. That was the way we had Bibles at that time. Uncial, yes. U-N-C-I-A-L. Sometimes pronounced uncial. Oh, so I'm going to condense these letters. They're usually very wide, but I'm going to condense them because the text says, as great as the height of the heavens. And it also helps me to get the whole phrase on. Whew, I got it on. I bet you were wondering. So was I. The next three lines go like this. The steadfast love of the Lord remains forever with those who fear him. So I'm going to contrast steadfastness with letters being close together with the idea that his love remains forever. So I'm going to contrast that tight and loose. Hopefully you will feel the change in the text. And I'm returning back to this style. I think this illustrates the essential part of God's character. The steadfast love of the Lord. And so I'll also go back to the purple as well. Here's another little secret of calligraphers. This is called a ligature. We do things like that to make things fit.
Why are those letters so far apart?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Why are those letters so far apart?
So it's because I wanted to illustrate the idea of the eternality of his steadfast love over time immemorial. With those who fear him. His salvation extends to all generations. As a grandfather, this starts to have a lot of meaning. First, I look back in my own life to those in my family background who introduced me to the Lord. And then realizing that the mantle has been passed on to me, that responsibility to influence our grandchildren at this point. Realizing that grandparents do have a special relationship there that's almost mysterious when it comes to that connection with grandchildren. His salvation extends to all generations. And at this point, this is the humbling part of my presentation. Here's where I like to use repetition to capture the idea of all generations. And think babies, or those unborn yet. And the very last thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to add the scripture reference, which is really important for calligraphers because the source of inspiration for my work is the text itself. So I need to acknowledge that. From Psalm 103. From indicating that it's not a complete psalm. Oh, I almost forgot my dots. So I will start with the word's name. And all of them will emanate or radiate from that point. Now, of course, this is not gold leaf, but it's what I can do in a manageable length of time so that we can leave one time. I think they also added an air of celebration. Well, I don't use it in everything that I do. And then the question becomes, when is enough enough? So thank you for being so.
Right here.
Sure. Yes.
What
Inspired me to do this particular one? Well, I was asked to do something on the theme of steadfastness because that's what your church is studying right now. And so this one speaks of God's steadfastness. The one I'm going to do this afternoon is a different text, and I will do it on the importance of us being steadfast.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
We don't go anywhere, by the way. This is our fellowship space. Keep in mind, all of Tim's work is out there, is back there. He gave us permission to use one of his works on the front of our bulletin this morning, and also on Thanksgiving Sunday. And he'll be with us again at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks, everybody. Invite somebody else to come this afternoon with you. Tell them you can't miss it.
Oh, good. But it's why you probably notice me checking it all the time. Yeah, I am. Because if I make a mistake, it stays there. You know, like if a singer makes a wrong note, it's over and gone. Right. Oh, I'm glad to communicate. Thank you.